Joined now by cultural expert Professor Sihawu Ngubane, who is going to help us with some of these challenges facing the Zulu royal house. So much, thank you very much for coming on this afternoon. We've seen a lot of challenges, if you want to say, and some turmoil within the royal house of the Amazulu. One being, of course, the postponement of weddings, the suspension of a few of the king's aides, including the Prime Minister and lately the spokesperson. We are hearing now that he seems to have lost the confidence in the Ingonyama Trust Board, suspended 6 of those members. There's land that's been stolen. What do you make of all these challenges, and what do they say, I suppose, about the leadership of His Majesty?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to your program. I think we are all watching the space on what is going on in the royal family and in the monarchy itself. We have seen that there has been a lot of instability in the governance and the leadership of the Zulu kingdom recently. But what we see is that the king is making an intervention by the mere fact that he has called the gathering, which is called Imbizo in Nongoma. He's trying to address the situation to create stability in the kingdom. One of the things that one may say is that the instability is caused by the conflict that exists within the family itself. So there are 2 factions that are pulling aside instead of pulling together. And that is why we see that the king is making these decisions, unilateral decisions, without any consultation with the family at large. Because we know that as the king, he still has to be accountable to the nation as well. So I think most of the instabilities and insecurities of people who are in positions that we witness at the moment is a sign that there is a problem, there is an issue that needs to be resolved.
Yeah. The government have described, of course, these developments as troubling, and they are pointing to interventions from within. Now, we are seeing an intervention, but even in this intervention, it seems to be pointing outside of what is happening within. A political party having a third hand in the Itala and Ingonyama Trust, board members being suspended, go speak to President Cyril Ramaphosa, go find the law to come in. Nothing being said about what needs to happen from within.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting observation. I think what we need to keep in mind is that Ingonyama Trust is a public entity, and it's governed by the public finance management. So there are processes in place that needs to govern the trust. And the king is the chairperson of the board. But the establishment of Ingonyama Trust is legislated. That is why the sole executive authority is the Minister of Land Reform. So if it is not the minister, it should be the president of the country, because this is how the act works. It has been regulated, and there are processes of annual financial statements. There is an auditor general. Since it is governed by PFMA, it has to adhere with the principles of reporting. And the portfolio committee of the land reform has got to play a vital role in the management of the board.
As far as these marital affairs are concerned, is there a sense that he is getting counsel from the elders in the royal house, or again, is he unilaterally handling these matters at his level?
Yeah, I think that is the main concern that I've alluded to earlier, that he lacks people who surround him and who will give some counsel before these decisions are taken. Some of them needs to be discussed before they go out in public. But all that we see is out in the public. It's a public knowledge that people have been removed from their positions. And I think he needs to have a support group or a support structure that is lacking. Usually, the kings are supported by the King's Council. It's supported by the family, the royal family, which I don't think at this point the family is involved in some of the decisions that are taken by His Majesty.
So are you saying that matters, for example, of the finalization of wedding affairs being cancelled and so on and so forth, these are things that I ordinarily would not be directly controlled by the king himself or him having direct input into them?
Yeah, they will be used as a support structure. Like he's got a hierarchy of Amakosi who can have influence in these decisions, informing the king on steps that will impact on the Zulu people as a whole. Like the case of Itala. Itala has got a cultural and significant, it's got a cultural and historical significance because it is a state-owned bank. It's a traditional bank because it was established to cater for people who are poor, people who, some of them are not working, to save money through Itala Bank. So the Itala belongs to the province. So I think those are the channels that need to deal with these challenges that we see. But His Majesty also has got a right to intervene because anything that affects the Zulu people, he should intervene.
Now, the matters that have now been also ventilated, I suppose, in the courts that have got to do with the wedding of His Majesty and Ms. Mieni, and the Deputy Prime Minister, Nkosi Patisizo Qhiliza, saying, look, I have no comment at this particular point in time because I've not been briefed on these matters. What does that tell us?
It tells us again that there is trouble because if you are a deputy, once the person whom you are deputizing is absent, you assume all the responsibilities of the person. So, in fact, the deputy prime minister should be hands-on on the matters and affairs of the monarchy. And unless he is trying to avoid confrontation and he's trying to save his face by saying he's got no comment, because he has a prerogative to comment, whether he is in favor or not in favor, but he has to give direction and directive to the nation because all the eyes of the nation are looking for answers from the prime minister. And if he's acting as prime minister, he has got all the powers and the authority to respond to questions from the public.
Right. I mean, in your assessment and having had experience with the goings-ons in the royal household, is there a point, does it reach a point where these legal disputes and this contention reaches, I suppose, a peak and is resolved and things begin to run smoothly?
Yeah, it will eventually happen. I think all what we see now will eventually subside because, like the legal cases, may stay for long. We don't control the courts. The courts may postpone several times, and it may take long. But the mere fact that the king has got the executive authority to come with solutions or alternatives to the problems. I think as long as he's still the king, he needs to be respected and the throne must be respected because there is a king of the Zulu people. So I think some of these problems will have to be decided upon and maybe come up with amicable solutions to these problems that we see at the moment. But what I'm saying is that there should be structures that will govern and also inform the leadership through His Majesty.
So much, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. Cultural expert there, Professor Sihawu Ngubane.